Tripoli EDC back again with another knife video. So this is the top 10 knives of 2021. It was very difficult putting this list together. There were a lot of good knives at the end of the year that did come out. It was a weird year because it started out a little bit slow and then had a little bit of a lull and then came on strong towards the end. But let me go ahead and start getting through these. First of all, just some ground rules. Knives had to have come out in 2021, and I'm going to go through a couple of honorable mentions as a result, because there are some knives from the last couple of years that I checked out after the top 10 videos for those years were made, and I just wanted to include them as honorable mentions here. So one of those is going to be the Wii Banter here. Now, this is more like in my mind, is more like a CIVI than a Wii. Obviously, same company. And they did make the Baby Banter here a CIVI instead of a Wii. I thought, though, the Wii Banter should have originally been a CIVI, mainly because the build is CIVI build. That being said, the bearings seem to be a little bit nicer on the Wii here, but it does sort of have very similar action, and it could end up being the same bearings. But for the most part, it feels a little bit better than some of the other CIVI knives. That being said, it is kind of small. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Benchmade Griptilian. So it is surprising that a small knife, you guys know I'm not usually fond of small knives. It's surprising that a small knife made this list as far as even an honorable mention. And so it's even more surprising then that I really like the Baby Banter from CIVI. Now, again, they did make the Baby Banter a CIVI, but what you're getting in the Baby Banter is basically the same handle except with a choil here, meaning the handle size is basically the same. It's a little bit different, but for the most part, it's basically the same. And so you get that full 4-finger grip. It's decently comfortable, but the blade itself, as far as the cutting edge here, let's go ahead and take a look at the handle here. There you go. It's about the same. You'll see that the blade itself is a lot shorter than the blade there. And just to give you an idea of reference for size, here's that Griptilian blade. So yeah, just to be able to see that this tiny knife is making the list of honorable mentions, it really is a testament to how good this knife is. I am, again, not a huge fan of small knives, no pun intended. So this is a really, really nice entry by CIVI. And if you're looking for a 5th pocket knife, this is a great option. So by the way, links are going to be below, guys, for most of the knives in this video. To the extent that that it's a DLT link or an Amazon link, those are probably affiliate links. I'm not recommending anything based on that. I have links also for, I'll also link some things below that are not on either site and that I'm not affiliated with. But if you do decide to buy something, it definitely helps the channel if you use the affiliate links. So anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the next honorable mention. The next honorable mention is another CIVI, one that I think did not get a lot of love this year. So the CIVI Elementum, the regular Elementum, is a hugely popular knife. I am not a big fan of the regular Elementum, but they made this one bigger. I get a really nice full grip on this, this is actually a really nice knife. My hand lands right where the jimping wants it to. The micarta on this is actually pretty nice and works very well on this particular model. I love the stonewash, or whatever. I believe this is a stonewash finish on the blade here, and it's a nice hollow grind. The blade on here is excellent. It really is. There are 2 gripes with this knife. So a lot of people made a big to-do about the fact that there's no flipper or thumb studs. So you really only have the button lock. I don't think that's so much of an issue, and it's actually kind of fun to go back and forth with that button lock. So I really don't mind. But a lot of people do complain about the fact that it doesn't have either, so that may be an issue for you. The other thing is, as your hand is set up on the blade, it is a little bit far from the edge of the blade. Sometimes I find myself choking up even though there's no choil. So that's maybe a little bit of a drawback. But this is an excellent knife overall, one that I really, really like. And it is, let me check, yeah, this is the only button lock knife on this list, despite the fact that I really liked the Hoback Sumo, and I really liked the Max Ace Babylon. So neither one of those guys made the list. And this button lock one did. It's a much better value than those two, although the Hoback Sumo is one that I really, really enjoy the build quality of. It's a really nice build quality. It just happens to be a tad expensive. So in any event, CIVI Elementum button lock, very nice knife. Next up, we have the Quiet Carry Waypoint. So this knife, honestly, probably would have been in the top 3 this year if it wasn't for the fact that this came out last year or the year before. So this is the first time I got my hands on it. It's been sold out continuously. I only really wanted this configuration with the stonewash. It comes in a couple of other configurations. So every time this configuration came out, it sold out before I could get it. Some of the other configurations were available, but I held off on those. So I just got those now. This is a great neutral grip right here. And again, a nice hollow grind. This is an even better blade, I think, than that CIVI Elementum. And it's made of Vanex, which is one of the best, absolute best deals on the market. Stainless, supremely stainless, but also, has a pretty decent edge retention on it as well. So great. Great to see the construction on this overall. Really, really like it. And I believe, if I remember correctly, I'd have to double check, but I think this is completely rust proof, which is another big bonus, especially since I live in Houston. So again, great. Next up, and the last honorable mention on the list, by the way, these are all honorable mentions so far, is the Resco Instruments Gooseworks Folder. So this is about 2 years old. Not this particular one, but the design and the fact that it came out in 2019. So it is not going to be on the list for 2021, but it is an honorable mention here, mainly because it just doesn't get a lot of love. I don't see it really hyped up anywhere. Don't see too many reviews of it. I do still need to do a review of this myself, but I will tell you right now, this is an excellent folder. It is $350 on their website, but if you actually go to checkout, they give you, I think it's 20% off. It ends up being $297. At that price, it really, really is a great value. The only drawback I think on the value is the CPM 154. This does have finger grooves that fit people differently. So some people are going to have too large or too small hands. I have size large glove hands, and these finger grooves fit perfectly for me. So if you have the similar large glove size hands, this is probably going to work for you. I don't know if it'll work for smaller or larger, and I have heard some complaints that it doesn't necessarily work for those sizes. It's also only available direct, I believe, but it's done in small batches, so that's not surprising. I believe this is on bearings. It has a really nice action. The disc works very well, and I really like the blade shape here and the grind. It's excellent for just about any task you can need. It's decently thick. It really has similar, despite the fact that it's a liner lock, it has similar build quality characteristics to like Endura's and Chris Reeve knives. I'm not saying it's in the same class. It's not necessarily in the same class, but it is, for $300, there are not many better like build quality knives on the market when it comes to that feel of a Chris Reeve or a Endura. So definitely a knife to check out if you haven't had one of these, and one that should be on your list if it isn't already. You can also find these pretty cheap on the secondary market. All right, let's go ahead and get into the top 10. So we're 9 minutes in. I haven't even gotten to the top 10 yet. This is probably going to be a long video. Sorry, guys. So number 10. This is the CRKT Pilar 3. This is an excellent design. I really, really love the forward choil here, and you get a great grip. I do not, obviously it's not really one of those knives that you're going to get a grip behind the choil on. I don't like this grip at all. It's very uncomfortable. But when you choke up into this grip, you really get that nice sort of spear point blade. It's a, I guess, combination drop point, spear point. It's not quite a spear point, but it's very close to a spear point, and I love spear points for piercing. It has a decently thick stock, although I kind of wish for EDC it was a little bit thinner. It's on bearing, so it has really nice action, and it I believe it's a steel frame lock, if I remember correctly, but you get that G10 show scale over here. I believe this is G10, and it just works really well. It's one of those knives that is not a whole lot of frills, really good design, and just works. So if you're looking for something that's like that, that's going to be a great knife for work, not necessarily like hard work like you'd want a Griptilian for, but some generally light duty work, EDC style. This is a great option. Anyway, that's number 10. Number 9 is the CIVI Riffle. And by the way, guys, this has sort of been a weird year. Like I said, I thought this was going to be the year of the budget knife, and it sort of was a little bit. So the reason I thought it was going to be the year of the budget knife was mainly because COVID during 2020 stifled a lot of what was coming out in the premium products, because what was left after the premium products started going, or their supply issues started affecting the premium products, which are smaller runs. The larger run stuff was able to function. A lot of the stuff coming from China was able to function, mainly because they had COVID earlier than everyone else. So that's sort of why I originally thought this was going to be the year of the budget knife. Again, it sort of is a little bit because there are more budget knives on this list than I thought there were going to be. But we're going to go ahead and look at these. In any event, this is the CIVI Riffle. This is an excellent knife. The grind on this is a really nice flat grind. It's a thin grind here. You don't see a lot of flat grind CIVIs. Most of them are hollow ground. So this grind on here is just really, really nice to be able to slice through cardboard. It really is a laser through cardboard. And this cutout, although maybe a weak point in the blade, which I don't necessarily love. Don't use this for lateral stuff, lateral force things. But this is an excellent spot for Spidey flicking. The thumb rolls work great on this. Just access to that blade is really, really nice. So I very much appreciate the design on this. The ergonomics on this are really good, especially in the micarta. If you get the micarta version, I think there's a few micarta versions of this. In a large glove size hand, this is almost perfect neutral economics. I mean, ergonomics, I should say. When I say perfect neutral, meaning it doesn't force your hand into any particular spot other than between here and here, but it has a sort of a nice curve to it, so it's not completely neutral like a straight bar, but it feels really, really good in hand. The jimping on this is where your thumb lands, which I really like because I use this sort of Filipino grip, hammer. I don't know if you call this a hammer grip, but I use this grip on my knives, and it really works well for that grip. So I appreciate that. Nice deep carry clip, and the price is right on this at, I think it's around $50. I don't remember offhand, but again, link below to the actual item. Yeah, this is a great budget knife, great budget option. Honestly, this is one of the best budget options on the market. I still like my Centros and my Praxis a lot, but this is getting up there as one of the better knives on the market. I believe the steel on this, if I remember correctly, I forgot the steel on this, guys, but it'll be in the link below. But I believe it was, CIVI usually uses 9CR or D2, and I remember thinking that the steel was more than adequate for the task when I was originally buying this and using it, and noticing how it reacted. So the one thing I haven't done on this is sharpen it yet. So, but it's actually maintained its edge pretty well. All right, next up we have sort of a surprise entry because Not only is it a little bit new to me, but it is in that sort of class with the baby banter of small knives that I just don't do. I don't do small knives. So this is the Protec Run, and it's so good. I bought 2 of them. So these are the 2 different blade shapes. This is the mirror polish, and this is the Blade Show exclusive. This is the Protec Enthusiast version. If you're an enthusiast, not enthusiast, you know what I'm talking about. But it is a it's just a really, really good knife. It is a 3-finger knife, so that is not my ideal. I don't love 3-finger knives, meaning that you're only really getting 3 fingers on this. But because of the thickness of it, you really get a nice grip on it. And one of the reasons this made the list and the baby banter didn't, let me show you real quick, is the blade shape. So the 2 main blade shapes available are this sort of reverse tanto and this Wharncliffe version. Both of these blade shapes are better for a small knife than the wee banter, and that's probably what really stopped the wee banter, the baby banter from the CIVI baby banter from getting on the list, is because when despite being a slightly larger blade, the blade shape of it would slip off. It's a small enough blade that as I'm going through cardboard, it'd sort of slip off the cardboard, and I would have to go through for a second cut as I'm cutting through cardboard. Whereas the more Wharncliffe style blades of these 2, even the reverse tanto, it grabs the material and continues through it constantly without having too much of a belly, which makes it so that it's a really, really usable small 5th pocket knife. Really, really usable 5th pocket knife. And one of the best things about this, go ahead and pull that one off. One of the best things about this is the fidgetability. Having a automatic Protec, this really hits nice and hard, and Protec does an excellent job of that. But you can see, how much more fidgetable this is than a full-size Protec. It has that really nice, hit that Protec has, while also being, relatively easy to close one-handed. Well, actually not relatively. It is easy to close one-handed, which makes a big difference in fidgetability, whereas some of the other Protec knives take a little bit more force or more maneuvering by your hand to reset. You don't really have to remaneuver this, and it just really, every time, is really fidgetable. So the fidget factor on this thing is off the charts in my mind. Really love the Run. Next up, and this is a really surprise entry. I thought the Runts was a surprise. This brand is not a brand that I've owned many brands. I've owned many knives from this brand, but I have not owned one that I thought was just a really good EDC, right? And that's the Medford M48. So this knife is actually surprisingly good. This is the DLT 12 Days of Christmas Holiday Edition. That's why you see these snowflakes there. But this is made for General Patton. That's why you got the 4 stars. You got the tire treads and the M48 tank. So plus you got his dog here as well. You've got a lot of really, really nice touches on this, but even better than all the touches is the fact that, so this is a neutral handle, and this is a neutral handle that works really well because of the thickness of it. It just really fits nicely in hand. Your hand lands on a spot where it's really close to the edge without being, without going on the edge. So I feel like I have really good control of this entire edge. The grind on this remains thick all the way through. You can see that that grind that they have on the end over here. And you can see the fact that the grind on this runs up. Instead of, it's not evenly across, it runs up like this and then sort of flares out. So it maintains the strength in the tip while, sort of getting a progressively thinner edge throughout all the way to the front. So it really, really does there's some really underrated aspects to this. And I also think that, so it's on bearings. It's not like drop shut, but I don't expect the Medford to be drop shut, and it really has really addictive action. It really does, because it comes out with a thwack. It has a really nice detent, and it does drop shut a decent amount but really that detent combined with the feel of, you know, the close. Some knives just have that really nice feel in the pivot when you close it. This is one of those knives. It doesn't, you know, it's not like a Chris Reeve or anything as far as the really nice feel. It's its own thing. But if you guys know what I'm talking about, when you get one of those knives that just really has a nice feeling as you glide it shut, this is definitely one of those knives. I don't know why it's not getting more love than it does. Well, I do know why. The price on this is a little bit tough to swallow. This is over $500, I believe. Well, this version I think was. I think their normal ones are about $400. Yeah, I think the normal ones are about $400, and this version was $500. So it is a little pricey, but it is a little tough to swallow in that regard. There also is an aluminum show side and a titanium lock side. So that ended up being pretty controversial. I don't find it that controversial, honestly, because you know, Microtech uses aluminum for their knives. Protec uses aluminum for their knives. And both of those can be in this price range. So I just don't see that much of an issue with it. Would I prefer it to be a titanium show scale? Yeah, probably. But I really don't think it's that big of a deal. And I really think that they were able to achieve, you know, a nicer finish on the aluminum than on the titanium. So, you know, you can see it's a more consistent finish anyway than you get on titanium, which is, and I believe the titanium is PVD, but I think that's why they did it this way. All right, next up we are at number 6, which is the Tactile Knife Company Rockwall. So this came out with a thumb stud version. I have not had the thumb stud version yet, but the flipper version is excellent. I do plan on trying the thumb stud version, but I don't necessarily think it would have climbed higher than this. But it, excuse me, 6 and 5 and 4 are pretty much interchangeable for the most part as far as their spot. They're all roughly, I believe, equal in, or very, very close in whether I was going to move them up or not. So that group, 4, 5, and 6 on this list, and this is number 6, it was very, very close. It was very difficult. The milling on these tactile knives is just really impressive. And this is the first knife they ever came out with, and this is number 20. So basically this is the 20th knife Tactile Knife Company has ever done, right? So this is a really impressive showing for Tactile Knife Company's first knife. You have a really nice grind on here. You have XHP steel, which is done really well. The sharpening on this was excellent. The factory edge was really, really nice. It is a liner lock, as you see here, and the action on it is on bearings. Biggest drawbacks on this knife are 2 things, really. One is these are loose bearings in here, and the other one is, while the clip is really well done, and the placement on it I kind of actually like, in practice, again, I have large glove size hands, so some of the edges on the clip are a little sharp, and I would have preferred, that really stopped it. The edges on the clip really stopped it from moving up further than it did. But the rest of the knife, other than the clip, is just really good. It could have competed at number 4, maybe even higher, if not for the clip issue. So, and the fact that it had the loose bearings. But again, overall, really nice knife. Not a huge knife. Let me go ahead and show that Griptilian again, just so you can see the size comparison. Not a huge knife, but it is a really nice knife deserving of its spot. Next up is another knife that is really kind of blew me away. This is the McNamara Mac 2 3.5 inch. So there is a regular Mac 2. The regular Mac 2 came out first, and there are several variations of this. The scales are all done differently. This is sort of the, I don't know if Medford would call it peaks and valleys or something, but it's basically pitting with a Dremel tool or something, but or like a rock style finish. It really is a nice finish on this, but I really like the fact that we have a thumb stud frame lock here with really simple thumb studs that just work. You know, sometimes people overdo thumb studs and they end up rubbing your fingers raw, or they don't have enough grip, or whatever it is. These are basically perfect for how this knife is set up. The handle on this, although the handle's a little bit short, it works extremely well for my large glove size hands. And the blade, of course, is a really nice length. My finger gets up really, you know, and again, that's one of the things that I look for in a knife. My finger can get up pretty close to the edge over here so that I maintain great control of this knife throughout. The jimping's a little short. I kind of wish it was a little further up than it is. But this is a made in the USA knife, CPM 20 CV, as you see. And it is came from the factory, really nice and sharp. And the blade itself is a little thick for the size. But what I will say is the action on this is one of those things that just blows you away. I mean, check out that action. This is one of those knives that when you first get it, you do that first drop and you're like, oh, damn, you know, oh, damn. The only thing that stopped this from being higher on the list is the price. The price on this, I think, was between $450 and $500, depending on your setup. I think it was around $467, something like that. Maybe this one was a little over $500. I can't remember exactly this version, but I know I've seen some of these for $467. It's a pretty hefty price tag, considering, you know, you can get Hinder XM18s and Chris Reeve Sebenzas in this price range, as well as the Umnumzaan. So considering its competition, you know, it's a little bit tough to swallow the price on it, but the build quality is absolutely up there with those other brands. It just happens to be you know, one of those designs where it's like, okay, this is one of those knives where I really, really just like the action more than I want to put it to work, but you can put it to work because it's a really nice thick blade that is ready to work and do what you need to do with a really nice edge on it. So that is, and again, the action on this, superb. Okay, so next up is we're getting into the top four. So this is number 4. This was a surprise for me. Honestly, when I got the CIVI Imperium earlier in the year, and let me see if I can grab the Imperium. Do I have the Imperium? I've lost the Imperium. Here we go. So this is the CIVI Imperium. When I got this earlier in the year, I thought this would make the list. This narrowly missed the list, and it narrowly missed the honorable mentions. But it is a front flipper with thumb studs, and it, you know, has a pretty decent blade on it as well. Sorry, it's hard to do this under the camera because the camera's low. But yeah, this was a great one until I got this one. So this is the Concept Knives Hazakura, and there's not really one thing that blows me away on this. It's really just how everything comes together on this. I think this is around 80 bucks. It is a liner lock, and it has incredible action, as you can see here. There's incredible action, just absolutely drop shut. That blew me away right there, the action on this. The micarta on this feels really nice. It is not, like this is more, you know, rough canvasy. This is a little bit more waxy, but not quite as waxy as like a Benchmade proper. It has a really decent finish on this, really nice finish that I was happy to see. You have a milled titanium clip on this, which was also good to see. And you have a really nice front flipper action on this. What I really like is this neutral handle. There's something about it, it just fits my hand really well. It it doesn't fit like a normal neutral handle where you're just like, hey, you know, it's good, but it's not great. This is one of those ones where it's like, it's good, but it's really good, even though it's neutral. And then on top of that, with the way the blade sits here, so it's not a thin grind. I mean, the blade itself is decently thin. As you can see, there's a swedge here, and it comes out, you know, for a little thicker tip to maintain strength throughout. But it is just, and it's not the thinnest grind, but it just has a blade shape that just works. Like, it has sort of that, it's one of those knives where the blade shape makes up for, you know, maybe not being the ideal thickness or whatever, but it is a pretty decent, like I don't know that I would change the blade stock on this or the grind, right? I don't think I would go to a hollow grind or anything on this. It is what it is. It's how it's designed to be, and it works really well. I love the fact that there's so much flat and then it goes to a sharp belly. It has it's just really useful as a blade shape, and it's really aesthetically pleasing, for me anyway. I think it has a really nice aesthetic to it. And the only drawback I will say is, as you can see here, I shouldn't say it's the only drawback, but it's one of the drawbacks, is as you can see here, there's no stop pin, right? Here, there's no stop pin on this. The only thing that stops it is the liner. So as far as hard use, this is not a hard use knife. You wouldn't necessarily expect a front flipper to be hard use, but it is definitely one of those knives where it's like, I don't know that I'd abuse it. But it's definitely tough enough to do whatever you need EDC-wise, especially in an office setting or anything like that. You go out to a construction site, yeah, I wouldn't recommend it out there. But as far as office carry, it does really well for that. And I love this brown and black combo here with the micarta and the black stonewash blade. And that action on this is just beautiful. So for the price, this is one of the best deals of the year, maybe even the best deal of the year. So I don't know why I haven't seen more reviews of this or better recommendations on it, but I love this knife. Anyway, that is the Hazakura. Next up, we have a knife that I thought about whether to include. And mainly it's because it's so new, and it really is a combination of two other knives. But it's just so good I can't not put it on the list. And I try not to do too many of these high-end pieces on the list, but the Holt Morpheus. So this is a hollow grind. The handle takes a lot of characteristics from the haptic. The blade takes a lot of characteristics from the Spectre. And it really has characteristics of both the Spectre and the haptic in both the handle and the blade, but the blade is more Spectre-ish and the handle is more haptic-ish than the other versions. And it really feels nice in hand. The jimping is perfectly placed. The millwork is exquisite on this, just like the other one. And I think it's a near mirror is what they have on this. It's really, really nicely done. The hollow grind is nice. Check out, the thickness behind the edge. I don't know if I can capture it here. There you go. Nice and thin behind the edge. I mean, really, really nice. And then just check out that action on it. That drop shot action. That just shows the precision with which Holt operates. It really is excellent. I get my thumb out of the way and it just absolutely drops shut. So beautiful, beautiful. And then the anodization, so it changes based on what light you have, and that's done on the hardware too, which I think is really cool. So, I don't know that I'd pay secondary prices, for these right now, especially because they're dropping them often enough. They're dropping them at least once a week right now. So they're dropping them often enough that I would definitely try to get one at table. But table on this is a really, really reasonable price between $800 and $900. Yes, that sounds like a lot of money. Yes, it is a lot of money. But in this price range with this level of milling and this level of just this level of precision, people who buy in this price range know the difference in quality you're getting, and this is a very quality piece, very, very quality piece. All right, next up is a knife that sort of goes to the other end of the pricing spectrum, but not the completely other end. This is a knife that really surprised me this year, and is a knife I honestly was expecting to use in a giveaway and then never think twice about. But it was a knife that really blew me away as far as its place in the market and everything else. This is the Sig Sauer K320 from Hogue. So this is a Hogue knife. It is S30V. It is basically plastic handles, just like a Griptilian. So it's S30V, just like a Griptilian. It's in the 120 to 130 range, just like a Griptilian. It has handles that are basically approximating a Griptilian, but where a Griptilian is contoured, this is more a little bit flat with some contouring, but it's a little bit wider in this dimension. And by being wider in this dimension, it sort of gives the feeling and the illusion of more contouring, which I think is really cool. So, you know, this is one of the, and it also has a choil where the Griptilian doesn't have a choil. So this has an excellent choke-up position that the Griptilian does not have. You know, and I'll do a comparison between these knives, but the Griptilian does not have a choke-up. So this takes some of the best characteristics of the Paramilitary 2, and the best kit, which is that half choil. That half choil is, in my opinion, is one of the things that most propelled the Paramilitary 2 to where it is today. And it also has some of the best characteristics of the Griptilian rolled into one knife by a really, really quality maker. Hogue is really, really high quality in everything they do. Pretty much anything coming out of Hogue is going to have a very high quality mark on it. The ergonomics on this are a lot better than I thought they would be in both this position and this position. Both positions are comfortable. That is not something that I usually see. It's only something really on Spyderco that I see for the most part. Whenever there's a, well, actually I should say Hinderer XM18s also do it. But other than the Hinderers and the Spydercos, you don't see a lot of knives where there's a regular grip here and then a choke-up choil that's a half choil, although Hinderer is not a half choil. And it's really comfortable in both positions. You'll see a lot of knives with a choil or a half choil, but they're not as comfortable as this one. The ergonomics on this one are great, and the pricing is great. The quality is great. Honestly, the springs on the Omega springs on this they feel higher quality than Benchmade's. And I'm a Benchmade. I love Benchmade. You know, as far as forget the politics aside. I like Benchmade and what they put out knife-wise. The springs on here, the Omega spring on the Griptilian is a lot less resistant or less full feeling than the spring on this one. This one feels a lot better quality in that regard. The thumb studs are a little bit closer. You can see they're not sticking out nearly as much, so you get sort of a slightly different feel when you go to use them. As you can see, the thumb studs do stick out on the Griptilian quite a bit. But overall, this is just a really, really nice piece. The Spidey hole here for flicking works well for both flicking and for thumb rolls. So you don't necessarily miss the thumb studs. You don't have thumb studs getting in the way of cutting, especially since you have the half choil. So I think this hole was a good choice. The lanyard holds out of the way. The biggest criticism I have on this one, I think, is the clip. I don't love the texturing here on the clip, which is, I guess, meant to help pull it out of the pocket. But you sort of feel that when you sort of feel that texturing when you bear down hard on the knife. And then you feel a little bit of the clip right here as well. But it's not really so much of a hot spot that it's a problem. Guys, if you want a recommendation on a knife to buy in this price range, this is a great option. I do recommend both the Griptilian and this, and I also recommend the PM2, but I think as far as work knives go, I prefer a little bit of a stouter blade. So, you know, from edge to tip, I do feel like this has a more consistent stoutness, whereas there's a distal taper on the PM2. Same thing for the Griptilian, where it has sort of, you know, the stability all the way through. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about on the PM2. It has that distal taper where the point here is pretty thin. So, you know, you do see a lot more snapped blades, just anecdotally, on PM2s, although I haven't had that issue because I don't use crazy lateral force. But if that's you, if that's something you do or want to do, and you're in this price range, check this guy out. Just a great, it's a game changer in the market. It really is. As far as you know, this price point, it is a game changer in the market. The only other real game changer at this price point or near it, I think, is another Hogue, which is the Hogue Ritter RSK from KnifeWorks, the KnifeWorks exclusive. So, which is basically, you know, the Ritter Griptilian moved over to Hogue, and they do an excellent job on it. So the Hogue is really killing it right now. They came out with a new Deca. I can't wait to check out the new Deca. I'm gonna definitely get one of those on the channel, but really killing it. All right, guys, we're down to number one. Number one is a knife that you probably were not expecting to see on the list. Well, before we get to number one, I do want to mention one other, well, two other honorable mentions that I didn't mention before. One of them is the Mallory Designs Forus. It is just a really good design with a nice choil here. I know I just talked about choil knives. This is about $180 price-wise, but it is a really nice carbon fiber. It is a liner lock, has really nice action, is a really usable Spidey hole. This didn't make the overall list, but again, it's an honorable mention, especially since it's a low production run. There may be another production run of these. I think there will be, actually. The last honorable mention is going to be the SOG Pentagon OTF. So that is, check out my review of the SOG Pentagon OTF if you haven't already. As far as where it sits in the market and what it competes with, that is also one of those game changer knives. The only reason I didn't include it in the list is because, well, there's two reasons. One is because it's a dagger OTF, which isn't legal in a lot of places. But the other reason is because I included this in the list, which is the number one knife, the G&G Hawk Deadlock Model C. So I thought long and hard about whether to put this at number one earlier in the count, whether to even put it on the list at all, seeing as how a dagger is going to be illegal in a lot of places, and an OTF is going to be illegal in a lot of places. But this is one of those knives that come along that sort of reset the bar. And this, it kind of shows everyone. So is this a completely perfect knife? Not completely perfect. But this is as close to a perfect OTF as I have ever seen. This is, it has so many qualities of what you want to see in an OTF and what you want to see in a knife in general. That I couldn't not put it on the list, and I couldn't not put it at number one because it's completely changing the game. Now, that being said, this knife's over $1,000. I think this was actually $1,000 even, but they're hard to get a hold of, and they're selling above that on the secondary market. I've seen them as high as anywhere from $1,200 to $1,800 on the secondary market. So yeah, it's a pretty expensive knife. Or actually, maybe this may have been, I can't remember if this was 1,000 or 1,200, honestly. But either way, it is a very expensive knife that is being done in very limited numbers. But they're churning out as many as they can and doing drops as many as possible. It is a 20 CV knife, as you can see, Model C. Really nice, you know, the way they did the numbering in the aluminum. And yes, this is aluminum. And there's a, you know, if you watch the videos, the Hawks will explain why they use aluminum on these. And it's probably honestly why you don't see OTFs from Protec or Microtech or any of these other brands that are titanium. Is titanium gets gummy and doesn't work with machining very well. And so it caused a lot of problems in the production of the knives. So they use aluminum, and honestly, it just makes an excellent knife. And this, I believe this is the higher grade aluminum that is much harder. So that's good as well. I don't think this is the, what is it, the 6061? I think this is the 70, I forgot the numbers, it's like 7074. So I think this is the higher aluminum on this, and that one isn't quite as soft as the lower number one. The action on this is absolutely perfect. It is easy to actuate, but not so easy that it's a problem. So it's kind of just perfect. There's the machining on this titanium piece over here. I believe this piece is titanium. So it integrates aluminum, carbon fiber, and titanium. But and I believe the button here also is titanium as well, and the clip. But you have this piece here that is machined for grip, and it really does a great job of gripping your pointer while you're pushing your thumb forward on this as well. The deadlock does, you know, so the SOG Pentagon OTF had ever so slight wiggle. This is deadlocked. There is literally no blade play, and it is amazing the way they do it. Absolutely amazing the way they do that. I love the Hawk logo here that they managed to put on here, and the way they did that. The carbon fiber on here. So normally I don't like this glossy carbon fiber, but the way they design this, it looks great, honestly. This clip is one of their sort of spring clips here, which I always really liked. I have one of the Chris Reeve versions of it on my Umnumzaan here. As you can see, it works a little differently, you know, whereas this one is on a pivot, as you can see. And you can see that pivot right there. This one works a little bit differently by pulling the entire clip up and using a tension here to keep it down. But this one is really easy to actuate in and out of the pocket, and it has enough of a grip that you're not worried that you're going to lose it out of your pocket constantly, right? So this is really nice. The machining here on these give you really good grip on here, and you just feel secure in this thing. The hollow grinds on this are beautifully done. It's hollow ground on both sides. It is hard, guys, to hollow grind 4 sides of a dagger. It is not an easy grind to accomplish, and they really do a super job of it. Like very, very nice. On this. So if you can get your hands on one of these and you can afford it, it is very recommendable. Like, I mean, it's a nearly perfect OTF. And that's why it's number one. But as far as my number one folding knife, you're going to get that, you know, K320. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below. I know this has been almost a 50-minute video, but let me know in the comments below what your favorite knife is of 2021, what your top 10 list would be. I'm interested to see what you guys liked this year. Did you agree and really like, you know, a lot of the budget knives? Did you like the CIVI Imperium? Is that one that you thought should have been on the list? Or the Baby Banter? I'd love to hear from you guys. You go ahead and hit that like button, hit that thumbs up. Oh, well, the thumbs up is the like. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment below. Let me know. Thanks, guys.